All right, hello. Welcome back to the channel. Merry Christmas. It's a beautiful day. It's actually been kind of cold lately, so it is nice to see a good day. And everybody got a chance to open their presents today. So that was really nice. And I was surprisingly surprised by a few gifts myself. Probably one of my favorite Christmases as my kids get older. I graduated from handwritten cards and high five, which are always awesome, to getting really thoughtful gifts. And I got some pretty cool things that I wasn't expecting this year from the family. So super cool. If I decide to edit this one today, we'll see. Probably see if I can overlay this with a quick video of everybody opening their gifts. But I think what a great topic to just continue this theme of showing gratitude as we close out 2024. And just the last, 2 to 3 days, I've had just moments of reflection on my personal gratitude. Yesterday I had a chance to do music most of the day, so I made a couple beats in the studio and really appreciated that. Like, it's been a while since I've had a Christmas Eve off, and got to watch football, spend time with the family, do some music, got a chance to do a little bit of everything. And I was just thankful for that moment to kind of pause and reflect. And I was in a really good space, feeling really good. And so I think it definitely came out in my music. One of the beats that I was making just had like this really cool optimistic vibe. I was in my 70s bag, so messing around with some samples, which I don't necessarily do a lot of, and just had a lot of fun. And I think it turned out, both of the projects I worked on yesterday turned out really nice. And that's because I came from a place of gratitude. I've definitely been in the studio, and you can hear sometimes the sadness in my music or whatever that emotion is. So this idea that we can choose to identify as grateful beings and make that the premise of how we see things or how we interact with the world will really probably change the way we show up. I want to go back to a video I talked about, I think it was 2 or 3 episodes ago, like this concept of identity really being such an important concept, like who we identify as. And it's, just chewing on this since my wife sent me that video on how I've seen this show up in my life over the years. And I talked about, the times where, I wasn't being grateful. And, whenever when I was doing good, particularly based off, my life experience and my age, I didn't feel like I was doing good, so I wasn't using other people's measuring sticks to measure my success. And I identified as, this young teenager that had to prove himself to everybody. And that's what I had to do. I continue to put myself in situations that I had to prove myself to people versus becoming attractive for the thing that I ultimately wanted. And without getting into too many specifics, I had always said I wanted to work for Apple. It was a dream of mine, and I had tried chasing it for a while. I think I interviewed 3 times over the course of 6 to 7 years, and got to various spots. Partly because, again, ego, feeling like I have to prove myself to everybody. I didn't want to take a step back. I didn't really look at that as a smart move at the time. Hindsight being 2020, it would have been a brilliant move, but I'm exactly where I'm at, where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there. But anyway, and it really wasn't until I didn't even have the organization on my radar. Like, I've always been a fan, still use a lot of products. Like, I have a M4 MacBook that I'm loving right now, that I use to edit a lot of these videos. And the opportunity that's out of nowhere came to me. Got a phone call from a recruiter out of nowhere. Good morning, Merry Christmas, which I thought was awesome. And again, it came at a time I was in a pretty good place with where I was working. I was really enjoying what I was doing. I was winning, and Lord behold, another opportunity opened up. And the times that I haven't been in the best of place, been frustrated for whatever reason, you know, opportunities are not as free flowing. And I often think about that identity that I have when I'm frustrated. I'm typically not choosing to see gratitude. So that's the first layer of identity. And then I'm identifying as somebody who deserves something. And we're all deserving of whatever we wish, but you got to be in a position to receive, because you can't have without doing. And that's a really important concept that I think really resonated with me as I continue to toy on that. Like, who we identify as is the stockpile or creates the capital for what we're going to do. And if you have no identity, no purpose, then you're probably not inspired to do much. Be a lot, do a lot, have a lot. People that believe that they can change the world usually do, which is a big being. I am going to change the world through X. People who have really clear purposes. This is what I want to gift to the world. Usually do the thing that they set out to do. They believe in their abilities a lot. They're big abilities. You might say, hey, I want to be a local hero. And if that's who you identify as, guess what? You're going to be a local hero. And your scale and magnitude is based off what you identify as. And I think that is really, really important. It's not something that we hear broke down in various components very often. You know, I think about just the way we receive information today. It's getting shorter and shorter. And even when I was growing up and going to church, in an hour and a half session, I felt like most of the conversations was focused on finances and wealth and, you know, what you're supposed to give back, but very little focused on how to get yourself into a positive state of being and believing that you're a person that deserves good things to happen. You have to have that as an identity. But if for whatever reason your faith tells you that you don't deserve those things and it's going to be hard for you to get those things, well, then guess what? You're going to probably go through your life in a challenge, right? Having it hard to get those things because that's what your energy is attracting back. And I think that's why this is so important in leadership, for leaders to have like strong identities. And, you know, think about some of the best leaders I've worked for or worked alongside or that I've seen, some of the leaders that I look up to, whether or not I hold their beliefs, all their beliefs or not, I think that's irrelevant. Those are people that are usually so strong in their identity, people naturally want to follow. And temperament as a leader is really important. If you're somebody that's always up and down, because you're not really grounded in your own identity, maybe you're chasing somebody else's expectation of an identity. And I definitely work for people who feel like they're chasing somebody else's expectations versus their own. You can just feel it in the way they communicate. Because again, in how you identify, it really shows up in the words you use, which therefore shows up in what manifests in your reality. So 2025 for me is just this concept of getting people to first identify as a grateful human or a grateful person on this earth. And I think about when people are grateful, how do they show up, right? You want to pour that gratitude out to others. I always say that I'm the most selfish giver. I have no qualms in saying this, but I give because it feels good to me. I've never got hung up on whether a panhandler or a person who's asking for money is authentically needing it or not. If I have it to give, I have it to give. And sometimes it's a reminder for me that because I have something to give, I have something to be thankful for. My expenses might not all be covered a particular month for whatever reason, right? Some mostly due to my poor mismanagement or choices that I've made. It's always choices that I've made. But, you know, sometimes it's a luxury to have those expenses. And when those expenses become frustrating, I have a choice that I can offload those things at any time and become unburdened. And that's usually when I don't feel like I have what I want, or I'm really frustrated, or I think I deserve more than I have. I deserve what I've asked for. Right? I deserve what I got because I'm the one that put it here. And I think that becomes really, really liberating. So I don't feel trapped, not at least for long. And I think that's something that I've really started to appreciate as I got older, is that this idea, like, I don't have to be stuck. Like, at any moment, it's always your decision. And that is just really, really liberating. But that's because you choose who you are. If I say today that I'm going to show up as a positive person, and I just tell myself that every day, then I'm going to show up as a positive person. I don't know what that was. On the flip side, if I told myself that the world is out to get me, and everybody's out to get me, and everywhere I go is dangerous, and guess what? That's what I'm going to see. Because it's all there. It's all there for us to see it. We just got to choose what to look at. And I've often just been uncovering that we see what we identify with. So I tell people who don't like where their life's going, change your identity. You can't change your life overnight per se, but you can definitely change the outlook on it and start changing the direction. And the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So this is why these things are, patience is a virtue. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take a long time, but you have to consistently do it. And when I tell people to be positive, I'm not saying walk around and celebrate because you just lost your job. That's not usually what that means, right? Nobody wants to be let go, but most people will tell you that after they get over that, there's always something better on the other side of it. And the trick is being able to get to that other side as quick as possible. And so if you can tell yourself, like, yeah, this is not what I expected, this sucks, but I've been here before and I was okay, so why am I not going to be okay again? That's a really good way to jump from being on the negative side of things and feeling despair to taking accountability and saying, you know what happens next, though, I still have some control. And like that little bit of control can create a level of positivity. At least it has for me in a lot of areas where I've been able to like have this layer of positivity just when things are not always going well. And it's this remembering that I put myself there. So life is about variety. Can't say I've made all the best decisions, but I don't know any of us that really can say that we've always made the best decisions. Because that's part of living life. And if you have been right all the time, you should take a few more risks. Life is pretty enjoyable. At least for me, I like to not know what's going to happen every day. I love that level of variety. So again, I'm going to repeat that. Be a little, do a little, have a little, be a lot, do a lot, have a lot. And that's based off your identity. And you can control, and only you can control what you identify as. And with identity, it's a journey that can go on forever. It's going to go really, really deep. I had some really good conversations with myself. And sometimes people think we're a little crazy when we talk to themselves, but I think the crazy ones are brilliant. So I try to talk to myself all the time. And, in those lot of conversations, it's finding purpose. I think narrowing down what I want, really honing in on what I want to become, because I understand that once I have that focus, it's going to happen. And that's the difference between faith and belief. I do have faith that whatever I see and put my mind to, if I want it, I can get there. It's just about, do you have the discipline and the focus to do it? Because there's a lot of distractions. And sometimes they're good distractions, right? But that identity goes just deeper than what's on our surface. It's really starts from being able to question, start from a place of curiosity and being internally curious with ourselves and exploring our own psyche with what we're taught and how it match up, and being able to break conventional teachings when it makes sense. Like that comes from having really, really strong identity. And our best innovation have come from people who've had really strong identity and thought things is different than what they were, and took the time and energy and believed that they had the ability to make those changes, and they did. So think about identity and what you're choosing to identify with, what you're choosing to hold on to that's part of your identity. And this is where I think that ability to choose gratitude can be such a powerful and liberating gift. So as you think about this holiday season, well, turn around here actually. Just something to think about, something to chew on today. Right? We got the rest of our lives ahead of us. At any moment, we can choose to take a step in a new direction. But yeah, for me, this has shown up in so many ways, this over and over. I could think about different points in my life where, I was either holding on to somebody else's expectation of me, or what I thought was the expectation, versus like really being who I am. And I can't say this is something that I've been masterful at for years, right? This is probably have gotten more refined over the last 5 years. And I go back and I play different situations through lenses. I've always had pretty much the same North Star. And I wanted to have an impact. I like to have an impact. I like to help people figure things out. I like to challenge conventional thinking and reconstruct things. And even if we get the same answer, just having a deeper understanding like why we can arrive at that answer is just something that I've always been really curious about, and it fascinates me. That's why I love math, because you can take a couple different paths, but the answer is going to be the answer. And understanding why those paths matter, I think being intentional to them is just, I think it's a good analogy for life. You can do a lot of different things and come up with the same outcomes. And usually the way you approach it is, again, it comes from this strong place of what you're using to drive your identity. And I think about the times where I felt like I've gave myself really black or white choices. Again, it was ultimately because what I chose to identify. So I can never be trapped. It's always my choice. And if I'm choosing to prioritize my responsibilities as a husband and a father, and there's sometimes that I have to prioritize my responsibilities as work as a leader, that's why I never really said, well, work-life balance is a term that we kind of throw out there, doing a work less, live more. And it's like, well, I understand what it's getting at, but hopefully you do something that you love to do, that it's not really work. And so that's the first step, is thinking about work-life integration, and how do your work and your life just seamlessly integrate together. Because again, to have something, you gotta be doing something, and to do something, you have to be something. And like that's that just simple formula to get you through life: be, do, have. There's times where the lifestyle that I needed to create, or that I wanted to create for my family, had to become more. And so that's that integration. How am I developing? Like the time that I have for myself went less to playing video games at those moments and more into developing new skills, whether that's through podcasts or more conversations, reading more books. Then there's time I got to prioritize my body because it's not doing well, because I'm just going too hard. And that's when I did take more leisurely activities. There's been times that I definitely had to spend more time with family. And so like those prioritizations is more of an integration tactic for me, because again, like what I put energy to is what I have. And that order of operations and how I identify have always kind of served me really, really, really well. I can't be multiple places at once, but I can structure things in a way to make sure that the things that are most important to me get the appropriate amount of time. And that's going to be based off, again, my identity, on what I define as important. And no one gets to set that but me. There's definitely something running around in those woods. Yeah, nobody gets to set that identity but you. There's definitely social pressure. There's social norms. There's all these things that tell us what we should and can't do. People's opinions. But at the end of the day, your opinion is the one that matters the most. You got to do what feels right. You got to feel good. And if you got good morals, you're identifying as something positive, you're going to have good outcomes. But I don't care if you see yourself as a monster, you're probably always going to have monster decisions. I don't know people who see themselves as a monster. So that's why I choose to think about the more positive way. Choosing to see yourself as a grateful person and a given person. You'll be amazed on what you can do. Or you don't have to choose that at all. I'm just throwing out suggestions, but just to illustrate examples on how who you define yourself as, who you be, is going to define what you do, which is also going to define what you have. And if you can figure out who you want to be and get all those to match up, right? But focus on the being first. The having, I promise you, comes. The more effortlessly you can be yourself. That is what I have learned. And you can do whatever you put your mind to. You got to authentically be yourself and find that thing. And if you can integrate those things, it's a beautiful thing. And it's an amazing gift that you can give yourself. And as I wrap up this video, this one's kind of long. It's been a while since I've gotten to shoot one on off day, but this has been fun. Hopefully I'm going to get this posted today. Last thing I want to talk about is treat yourself well. Talk to yourself well. Usually how we talk to ourselves is how we can talk to others. And, you know, you deserve to be talked to with respect and dignity, even from yourself. And I used to think words of affirmation were a little bit cheesy, but they do matter when you tell yourself every day that you are deserving, you're capable, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're uniquely you. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I never really fully understood that. I've always kind of thought about that as one-sided. But truly, what you find beautiful is what you find beautiful. And this goes back to choice and identity. Hopefully you see yourself as the beautiful soul and beautiful person that you are. And if you don't, remember you always have a choice to change that up. And that's powerful and liberating. And so hopefully you choose to be the beautiful soul that you are, and you talk to yourself in a way demanding of the beautiful soul that you are. You're going to start talking to yourself from that place of love. You deserve it. And I say this because I've not always talked to myself the best. But this is something I've learned to appreciate as I've gotten older. Is giving myself gratitude, grace, where it makes sense. And we make mistakes. And guess what? As I become more forgiving of myself, I've become a lot more forgiving of others. And so it's just been interesting to see how those things just consistently correlate with each other. Right? Beauty is going to be high to the beholder. And for me, that just breaks down to, what I choose to see is what I choose to see. Can't nobody else see something differently for me. There's many sides of the same coin. We throw out a bazillion analogies every day telling us what these things mean and kind of like how to navigate things. And we just got to make that choice. I was talking to, some peers the other day, and, we're just kind of like having this ideation. And, I have this thing about like, what does it mean to be a trusting leader? And I think the first step to that is saying you want to be a trusting leader. And one of the actions that you get from that is if somebody telling you that they're going to change for the better or they're doing their best, believe them. Choose to believe them. It's something that's that simple a lot of times. And now you're a trusting leader, just like that. And now that you're on that space of it, what you pour into that person and how you have conversations with that person is definitely going to change, because it's going to be coming from a place that you believe they're doing their best versus coming from a place to where you think they're trying to get over on you. And I've just come to accept, in some small way, everybody is trying to get what's best for them. I don't know if it's always trying to get one over on somebody, but a lot of times it's just trying to secure what's best for them. And there's a lot of reasons why people feel like that's necessary. Sometimes they feel it's necessary because they think they're fighting for a resource that's scarce. And it's only scarce if you tell yourself it's scarce. And a lot of times I get to take that as an opportunity to educate. But if it's coming from a place where I think everyone's out to get me or people are trying to game the system, we then enforce and enact policies that don't create trusted environments all the time. And I've worked for organizations that do a great job at trusting and demonstrating trust. Hey, y'all. They do a great job of demonstrating trust and giving it away. And then I've worked for some that have the wildest policies to tell everybody that from the day you're hired, we don't trust people. We don't trust the people we hire. We don't trust in our ability to hire trustworthy and great people. And usually it's because they know, or the person doing the interview knows. I've definitely been there to where, hey, we're not paying a great wage to get top talent. And so people approach interviews with that perspective. Listen, I've worked for companies where I felt that was the case. And I've definitely worked for companies where I get to get the best talent based off where we are. And that's amazing. But at the same time, when you have policies that tell your employees that you don't trust them, it creates environments where probably a lot of things happen. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. If you hung out this long, if you have, would love to hear any thoughts or comments. How do you give away trust as a leader? And then also, how has identity played a role in your leadership? It's always curious, love talking to this many people. Where does identity play a role in your life? Where has it had a positive impact as you've learned to see yourself differently? If this was helpful, please share it with somebody you think that it would also resonate with. As we grow the channel, I have visions of getting this thing to be bigger and bigger, where I get to do these walks with really impactful voices, and I think get to share perspective. And perspective is really important in helping us understand what's possible. So that's going to be the long-term goal of this channel as we think about spreading this positive mindset, helping people achieve their goals through positivity and understanding that anything is possible. And as this thing gets bigger, we're going to bring in bigger and bigger guests. Hopefully I got a couple interviews up on the docket as well. Have one of my good friends from Cleveland that started a clothing brand. I'm going to figure out a way to get him on the channel. I don't know if I'm going to do it virtually or find a reason to get back on site. Get my son up here, do a walk with my wife. I'm going to probably, I got dude that own the lifestyle brand, my good buddy Mari. Whenever he gets down here, we're going to shoot an episode, talk about his experience in building a brand and his journey, which I think is great. Yeah, and listen, I love just to host people. This has become a really, really fun project. I don't have to do a whole lot of editing for these videos. I'm actually working on doing less and less editing. So if I make a mistake, we're just gonna roll with it because they're unscripted. Just things that's on my mind now, and always open to conversation. So like, subscribe to the channel. See y'all soon.